André Onana suffered a hamstring injury last week, which rules him out of Manchester United's entire pre-season tour and potentially the beginning of the Premier League campaign. There are calls for the club to sign a new goalkeeper, but before they consider placing any bids, it might be a good idea to look at what Radek Vitek can offer in pre-season. The 21-year-old has gone slightly under the radar since he shone in pre-season last year, but he has another successful loan spell under his belt. So, who is Radek Vitek, and could he be the one to step up in Onana's absence and potentially challenge the goalkeeper when he returns? Let's take a closer look. Hello guys, welcome back to UtdDistrict, and with another pre-season underway, it was never going to take long for Manchester United to suffer their first injury. But I don't think a lot of people thought it was going to be a goalkeeper, so André Onana has suffered a hamstring injury, and that's reportedly going to see him miss the entire of the pre-season tour. He's going to be in a race against time to get back for that Arsenal game, the first game of the Premier League season. But even if he is back around that point, there's going to be question marks over whether he's fit to start, whether he needs a bit of time and training. I know goalkeeper's a bit of a different position, but still, there's going to be question marks. And I want to speak about Radek Vitek, who's a goalkeeper who's come through the academy at Manchester United. He's been out on a couple of loans, and now there's a bit of a question mark about whether he can take an opportunity this pre-season, particularly because Altay Bayinda, the second goalkeeper, who would probably, you'd expect him to come in for André Onana while he's injured, his future's in doubt. He's most likely going to be leaving the club this summer. His agent's reportedly been speaking to United about a potential exit. And that leaves Vitek, and obviously I'm going to speak a little bit more about him, how his recent loan spell's gone, what United think of him, because a lot of reports are saying that United really highly rate Vitek, and this could be a good chance for him, and that's what it seems like it's going to be. We've got reports recently in the recent days that have said that he's set to start on tour. He's meant to go on tour. He's going to start that first game, not the Leeds game. This isn't referencing the Leeds game, although he could play in that game. This is referencing once United are actually in the United States. So that's an interesting bit. I want to touch on this because I think this gives a good idea of how United think of Vitek and how the goalkeeping coaches in the academy think of him. So this is recently after he returned from his loan spell, and he was out in Austria on loan. He did play for, I'm not going to say it, guys. I'm not going to say it. I know in the comments of a previous video someone mentioned a mispronunciation, so I'm not even going to think about saying that. But so Tommy Lee, the academy lead goalkeeping coach, spoke about Vitek, and he had some really, really good words to say about him. So he said, Radek has done great out there in Austria. He got an injury early on, but recovered extremely well and played really well. He's got really good experience out there. I think we often use Radek as an example to some of the younger goalkeepers in the academy. He's a player who maximises every part of the programme to ensure he is the best he can possibly be. Nutrition, gym, analysis, he is the consummate professional, and that's going to take him, I believe, to the top level. He's a talented boy, and that needs to be said. He's 6'6", and that always helps. For the other lads, their challenge is to be as good as Radek and do everything he does and more. He is a great example of someone who does that. So, I mean, it's really clear that Vitek is rated, and if we go back to last pre-season, he did really impress there. If I go here, this is his stats. So this was a game against Rosenborg. I'm sure a lot of people remember that. Yeah, it was quite a forgetful game, but Vitek was probably the only United player who stood out. He completed 69 passes. So he's definitely, I've watched a lot of him through the academy. I won't pretend to say that I watched a lot of him through his loan spells, but when I watched him in the academy, he's not the best ball player. Like, I'm sure I'll get on to Eli Harrison in a bit, and he is a really good ball player. But similar to Dean Henderson, I'd say, Vitek is just really willing to play the ball. Even he might mess up. You see, accurate long passes in this game wasn't perfect, but he's really willing to try and take on that role of a ball-playing goalkeeper. So yeah, just looking at his stats in this game, he was really impressive. And I mean, United lost, so Erik ten Hag didn't want to praise him too much. But there's a good goalkeeper there. He's really willing with his feet. He likes to sweep. And he's a pretty decent shot stopper. Of course, he's 21 years of age. He's only had a couple of loan spells at lower level clubs, not top European clubs. It would be quite a risk to kind of trust him to then potentially be United's first team goalkeeper next season if Onana isn't doing well enough. Because I think the idea is that United trust Onana to continue being the first team goalkeeper for another season, but they don't want a situation like last season where Onana was doing really poorly, and whenever Bayanda came in, apart from that Arsenal game, he didn't really do much better. If anything, he done worse than Onana. They want someone to be able to come in and actually provide a real challenge. Can Vitek do that over these goalkeepers that we're linked to? We don't know, but it does seem like he's going to be given a chance. Of course, while he's set to play in pre-season, that doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be staying at Old Trafford next season. There is interest. This is in the last few days that apparently Millwall were interested in him. It didn't mention whether it's a loan or permanent deal, but you would imagine this would be a loan deal if it was to happen. But that would be a step up even for him. I mean, he hasn't got championship experience, and that's a tough league for a goalkeeper. So it could be a good move for him, but I do think United are going to consider him. And some people might be asking, why not Eli Harrison? Because like I mentioned earlier on, Eli Harrison's definitely better with the ball. He's probably more promising long term, but I think the main thing which just affects this is the simple fact that Eli Harrison probably needs a loan spell more than Vitek, and Vitek might be able to justify sitting on the bench for part of the season before potentially getting a chance. I think Harrison went out on loan to the National League at the start of last season, really impressed, and then came back and stayed at Old Trafford. He probably needs a loan in the Football League, in a higher level, and I expect that's probably what's going to happen. Whereas Vitek, I do think that United will consider keeping him at the club. Of course, like I've mentioned in previous videos about these youth players, a lot of the decisions will come throughout this pre-season period, which gives Vitek the chance because he's going to be playing in games. He's going to get the opportunity to really prove himself to Ruben Amorim and say, I can stay at this club. I can provide a challenge to André Onana. And I know there will be a lot of people probably already writing in the comments mentioning about how United need a new first-team goalkeeper. I don't disagree, but I just don't think it's going to happen because all the reports are saying that Ruben Amorim likes André Onana and he's willing to give him that extra chance, that another season. So the question is about a backup goalkeeper, and with a lot of the targets mentioned, I mean, there definitely is links, but will these guys want to come in as a backup goalkeeper? Some of them, they might back themselves to take Onana's spot, and yeah, that definitely could happen. But it does seem like if we do go into the market, the most realistic choice is probably going to be a younger goalkeeper who's got potential. So I'm just saying, why don't we think about the guy who's already in the building? And it is an interesting point because I don't necessarily mean this just for goalkeeper position, but there's a lot of different positions in this squad which can be filled by academy talents. We are not going to be playing 50 to 60 games next season unless we do really well in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup. So it doesn't seem like there's much need. Do you really need to buy a backup wing back when you could potentially look at Bendito Mantato or Jaden Camerson to take that spot where they're probably only going to be playing 10, 15 games, some of those off the bench? Of course, we want quality. At Manchester United, we need quality, but the simple truth is that we can't afford it. We can't afford to get all of these players, and that does naturally mean that potentially look into the academy. Instead of buying another backup keeper like we did with Bayanda, who's going to leave this summer, it seems, for 10, 15 million, look in-house. That's all I'm saying. I think it's an interesting move. I think we're going to be seeing a fair bit of Radek Vitek over the next few weeks, and he's going to either make an impression or we're probably going to look at loaning him again. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think it will be an interesting kind of part of pre-season. Let me know what you guys do think of this in the comments below. Do you think that it's worth going for Vitek over a new backup goalkeeper? I know we'd all probably prefer a new shiny, like really good goalkeeper, but that does seem unlikely, especially now that Onana really can't get sold because no one's going to be able to buy an injured goalkeeper. But yeah, let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. It's another pretty interesting aspect of pre-season, I guess. First game coming this Saturday. Manchester United back on our television screens. How exciting. Let's hope that it's a little bit of an improvement from last season. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd much appreciate it if you did hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And that's all from me. We'll see you in the next one.